Speaking of websites, I went on the LAW website yesterday and I was very impressed.
It's really grown, and we've been putting a lot of stuff up, and Mike has been organizing it to suit the material we have. It's yeah, we generate a lot of content just by existing. It's yeah, shaping up really nice. Hello, David.
Hey, John. Hi, guys.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Yeah, well, it looks like we got a nice full screen. You give it about another minute for the slackers to click in. Good morning, Jim Bowman.
Barry Price.
Yeah.
I ran across a toolbox full of machinist tool pieces for lathe, for the machinist lathe that belonged to my father-in-law. Are you interested in looking through it and just taking what you want out of it?
Sure.
It's like lathe bits, and there's a couple of milling machine bits and stuff like that.
That'd be great.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody has ever purchased high-speed steel rods online to grind into various kind of chisels. Anybody tried that?
No.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it.
So I'm gonna be, because you buy them from Amazon, they were like either 5 or 6 for $9 at the I think 9 millimeter diameter, which is somewhere between 5/16 and 3/8 of an inch diameter. And it says they ship as Rockwell 61 to 63 hardness, which is about the upper limit that you can heat treat carbon steel to, regular 10% carbon or 1% carbon steel to. And I just wanted to know if anybody, I can't give them all away, but they're going to be 8 inches long. So they could be, if you make a handle, they could be sharpened on either end. And I was thinking of making some of these Cindy Drozda type small tools, making that finial for the finial contest made me realize I don't really have any small tools that are really well suited for making something as thin and fine as a finial.
Barry, on that steel, when you have a piece 8 inches long, how much will have to go back into the handle because how brittle is it?
On high-speed steel in general, what I don't know is, like, if you buy a high-speed steel professionally made gouge, has it been heat treated other than the Rockwell 61? Has it been tempered to make it more flexible or resilient? I don't know, but it was my thinking that these would be used for I'll say small tools where the shaft is no longer than 4 inches. And so it'd be 4 inches in the handle and 4 inches protruding.
I see.
And you can buy the on Amazon, you can buy it all the way up to, I think, 12 millimeters, which is that's about 5/8 of an inch or better. No, I guess it's a 1/2 inch. But on like McMaster Carr, this is all an experiment I'm trying here. McMaster Carr, you can buy it up to 1 inch in diameter, I think. But grinding it becomes the issue. I got to figure out how to, if I'm going to do a gouge grind, how to do the hollow. Do I use a diamond disc of some kind and try to manufacture a groove? I don't know. Yeah.
One of the things you might do is look up some of the things you're looking for on MSC. The company MSC.
Right, I dealt with them.
The reason is I being associated with Arconic, I got a employee discount, which applies even though I'm retired. And it is a deep discount on their line. So if you look up some prices, if you send me some other things you might be interested in finding out, I'll find out what price I can get them on for you if you want to. it might be even better than the Amazon price.
Now, I think a disc, a diamond crusted disc of almost any diameter that is, say, 3/16 thick or something,
Okay.
you know, for trying to, if you can just picture what would be required to machine the trough in a gouge.
Okay.
You know, 1/8 inch, 3/16, something like that, maybe even
Yeah,
1/4 inch.
But it's for milling machine attachment is what you're saying. Milling machine tool.
I made some tools out of that round steel, and I just ground a flat edge on it, and then I came back and did the backside, just ground it back, and it does a beautiful cutting job. You don't need a flute.
Yeah, Cindy has, if you looked at Cindy Drozda's website, her tool, she has a number that are made by Carter and Son for her and by some other companies for her. But her, I guess, famous so-called Cindy Drozda Vortex tool sounds like what you're talking about, Mike, where it's it appears that she has ground a point, like a 30-degree included angle point to the tip,
Right.
and then flat ground one face at maybe 10 degrees angle.
Yep.
And then somehow rounds off the very point or leaves it sharp, and you can do real fine detail
Yeah.
where you're not worried about catches, you know?
Right.
And on that note, this is Lancaster area Woodturners coffee hour number 34. Welcome aboard.
Yep. Good morning.
Good morning.
John, do you want to make me co-host to help you out if you want to?
Yes, I will do that. Who's got stuff that they want to talk about today?
I got something, John.
Okay, just so I know, Ray's got something. I was going to, is it long, Ray, or short?
No, short.
Okay, then we'll do you first, then we'll do Kai, and then we'll go around and see who's working on what, and then I've got some videos, and depending on the time left is which ones I'll show you. Okay, Ray, you got it.
Okay, I watched a webinar presentation the other day on grinding, and it was interesting because I'm looking at upgrading my Tormek to a diamond wheel. And they made a comment on something I hadn't heard before, and I just want to pass this on, that the grinders and the wheels that they're available to us as hobbyists, like the CBN wheels, have gone up so fine in their grinding ability. It used to be you had like 180 grit. They're going up to 1,000 grit, 1,200 or more on a grinding wheel. And one of the things they said is the problem that's come up is this creates metal dust. It's no longer chips. And people are breathing that metal dust. And they said, it is as hazardous as anything you can do. And I hadn't heard that before. And they said that it's not just the diamond wheels, but the CBN wheels now have gone up to 1,000 grit, 1,200 grit, and they're becoming standards. I just wanted to throw that out there because we just talked about grinding a moment ago.
I've looked into that a little bit as well, and I believe those metal dusts are all very dangerous. And the answer, I think, is to either use magnets to catch the dust as it is created, and to use your dust equipment to catch whatever else gets into the air. And I think a lot of people would also wear a mask with grinding that fine, or ought to. I don't think they do, but I think it's a real risk. And
Tormek had started out when they went to they've had a diamond wheel, but now they've come out really pushing this, going to the diamond as a thing to do. They went back, it was advertised initially as a dry grind, being able to get away from the water. They've changed that. They now suggest running the diamond in a liquid.
And that's to catch the dust. I believe that's the reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up because we've talked about it last couple of times. People talk about grinding and making things, and I had not heard about that. Didn't even think about it.
Well, I also find it incorrect that a lot of the vendors show their CBN wheels without any guarding whatsoever, and the wheel isn't going to break apart. But nevertheless, I think there needs to be a shroud on it, if only to keep me from banging my nose into it or my fingers. Make a wooden guard or a wooden housing for these things. That gives you a place to mount magnets aside from on the apparatus itself. So you can catch you sure do catch a lot of dust on those magnets. Let me tell you, you can just pretty much weigh it up by the ounce, the amount of very expensive steel you're dusting up there.
Yeah. I've got a Tomic as well. And I bought a 320 grit diamond wheel for it, but it was too coarse for grinding the tools. So I didn't get a fine edge on the tools without doing a lot of polishing. So I sold that again and bought a 600 grit diamond wheel for the Tomic. And that seems to work fine. It's a good compromise between the three wheels they offer. The 600 is in the middle. They have one of 1,000 or 1,200 or something like this, which is really fine. But the 600 grit works good on my tools. So I'm happy with that one. And I run it in water as well, as you suggested.
They say that the 600 is good for wood turning tools, and they recommend the 1,200 if you're doing carving. It takes it up to another level. Yeah. But to try to do the wood turning tools with a 1,200, it takes so long to grind that it's kind of overkill.
Yeah, even with using these jigs, you don't hit the right angle exactly. So you always grind a little bit away from the tip. And this, of course, is quicker with a 600 grit wheel than with a 1,200. If you have the angle exact, it should be no problem, but often that doesn't happen.
Do you then hone on a flat stone, or do you go straight from the grinder for the very finest edge?
For the very finest edge, I hone a little bit, but if I do kind of rough turning, greenwood or something like this, I just go from the grinder to the workpiece.
What do you hone with?
I've got a Japanese whetstone that I use, and if I do a lot of grinding, change the angle a little bit, maybe I use a diamond file.
I have diamond plates that are 300, 600, and 1,200 that I use with water, and that allows me to grind all of that stuff. Yeah, to hone anything with those. On the outside, the inside, the little diamond file. I am not sure that honing makes a whole hell of a lot of difference when turning, but I do it more than not.
Yeah. If you use the setup on the Tomic, the honing setup on that adds to the edge. If you look at that with a magnifying glass, it makes a nice edge.
All right.
You mean the leather wheel, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing too is with that 1,200, that using a diamond wheel, one advantage with a diamond wheel is you can do your carbide tools.
Mm-hmm.
So people weigh that you look at the cost, but you can use the 1,200 on carbide tools, and it puts a nice edge on, especially when you're using water.
Okay. On that note, I'm going to hand it over to Kai, who's going to entertain us for 15 or 20 minutes, and I'm not quite sure what he's got, but I'll put the spot on.
John, one item, excuse me, Kai, one item while we're talking about grinding, you mentioned using magnets to pick up your dust. I did read one time there's a little bit of caution required there, that you position your magnet so that it doesn't grab your tool out of your hand when you approach the wheel. So you've got to be careful with that.
I think the trick is the magnet needs to actually be attached. You either need to super glue it to wherever it's sticking, or if it's part of the wooden housing, you want the magnets you can screw down. Loose magnets around wheels are not.
Just lay the magnet there. The wheel will grab it, or it'll bounce around. So
that's a risk.
Yeah.
There are places where you can purchase magnets which have a hole pre-cast in them.
Yeah.
K&J Magnetic does. Yeah. K&J Magnetics sells those. They're a Pennsylvania company, and they've got tons and tons of them. You can find them online as KJ or K&J Magnetics.
Yes.
That's where I get all my magnets for the Goombas I make using magnets. Okay, over to Kai.
Yeah, okay. So I'll share my screen with you. Okay, one of the first morning coffee hours I attended, you talked about Hawaiian calabash bowls. I think you did some kind of club meeting on them and had a remote demonstration or something on calabash bowls.
The Susquehanna Club did with a fellow from Hawaii, Emilio Acabal.
Ah, yeah, okay. And I found that interesting, and I wrote to Bill and asked him to send me his plan for the calabash that he turned. And now I turned one as well, and I would like to show that one to you. I hope I don't repeat too many steps that you already know about. If so, please tell me, then I go quicker. So this is a bowl I have already shown you some time ago when I talked about how to dry wet wood, and this one developed a big split. So I thought that's a good candidate for making a calabash bowl because it's got a split anyway, and I don't know what else to do with it. So I'll try out the kind of the technique of putting butterfly patches on it with this one. And that's what the result is. I put 2 patches on it. They are about 1 inch long this direction. The bowl is cherry wood, and this is French walnut. And bowl diameter about 10 inches and the height about 4 inches.
I'm going to raise a technical question with you right here.
Yeah.
You've basically got a long grain piece going across grain on the cherry, and one of the things that's going to do is prevent that cherry from moving. If it left to its own devices, that split would get wider and narrower. With those Pewas in there, it's stuck. So does that not turn up as stress somewhere else in the bowl and make a new crack?
So far, it hasn't. I pre-turned it, and it had been lying around for a few years, so quite a long time. So it must be fairly dry. And now I have it in my well-heated study, and there hasn't been any other cracks, or haven't been any other cracks or anything. So it seems to work. Did you make those inserts or buy them? I made them. I'll show you how I did it. All right. So, okay. There were some defects on the inside of the bowl, or there are other defects in the bowl. So I decided to leave the split or crack as it is, and not fill it in with resin or anything else. And that's how I worked. I inherited an old Bosch DIY router from my father, and I was amazed, even after maybe 30 years or so, this thing must be old, you could buy a 1/4 inch collets to fit this one from Bosch. So I ordered a 1/4 inch collet from Bosch, and I made a base plate for the router, and bought this bushing in the States, or mail ordered it from the States, from MLCS. I think they are well known for these products, and they have an interesting system. You can use the bushing without this sleeve for routing the butterfly or the Pewa, and then you put the bushing on, and then you can route the recess into the wood in which you want to fit the butterfly. I made some fine adjustments by putting a little bit of sticky tape around the sleeve to make it a little bit bigger, and to make the gap a little bit smaller between the insert and the recess. But the system is quite interesting because you can do everything with one piece. First, I thought of ordering the finished, or the butterflies from Big Island Engraving in Hawaii. They sell them. but ordering from Germany is quite expensive because you have to pay the import tax, and also postage is really expensive. So I decided to make my own butterflies. Otherwise, maybe I would have bought them.
What size router bit is that?
Good
1/4
question.
inch or 1/8 inch?
The shank is a 1/4 inch, and the bit is 1/8 of an inch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've made some of those that were for furniture, tabletops, and I made a washer that worked with a 1/4 inch router bit, and that's what I've used.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
I didn't want to buy the expensive kit, so I made my own.
Mm-hmm. The kit isn't very expensive in the States. I think around $20, $21 or something like this, including the router bit and the bushing. So
Right.
that's a good price, but getting it to Germany is expensive. That's the expensive part.
Kai, is that a 1/8 of an inch, or is it a millimeter bit?
No,
bit?
that's an inch bit. Yeah.
Okay.
I ordered it from the States, and it's an inch bit.
Okay.
And I think the shank is a 1/4 of an inch, and I think it's 1/8 of an inch. But I can look it up. I think it's 1/8 of an inch.
I just wanted to make sure, because
about 1/3 of what I found.
Sorry?
But I also wanted to, I want to make sure, because the insert that you've got there for your router needs to be imperial, as well as the bit needs to be imperial if you're going to get a good match, I would assume anyway.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah. I bought the whole set from the States, and it's all imperial.
Yeah, MLCS is in Philadelphia. It's the wood working division of Penn State Industries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Have you heard of Slab Stitcher?
No.
I didn't look at them when I was buying my kit or searching around for my kit. The prices I saw were around $70 for a kit with a router and the collets and everything. So I made my own, but I'm going to look into that one.
The Slab Stitcher, I have a number of their stuff. I like them because they're quite local. They're not far from Doug, actually.
Yeah, I've been down to their place.
Pretty neat place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very nice, Kai. Very nice. I have the same basic system you do, but I went to the Big Island for the template and the inserts, but I've done the same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's very nice.
Yeah. So let me just continue a little bit.
Yeah, go on.
Go ahead.
So I had to make my own template then. And I did that just by making a drawing on a piece of paper and then cutting through or along the lines with a sharp knife to transfer the outer lines to the wood. And then I cut it out with a jigsaw.
Scroll saw, jigsaw.
What is it called?
Scroll saw?
A scroll saw, sorry. A scroll saw, yeah, with a scroll saw. And then I routed out the inserts, which was rather tricky. I'll show you why. If you come along, I mean, you have to pull your router or the collet of the router against the template. And then when you route along here, for example, and then you come to this place here and change direction and want to go down here. And if you're not really careful, you just go on routing in this direction, and then you take too much wood away here, and then it's a reject. You cannot use it anymore. So about 50% of the pieces I did were rejects, and the other 50% I could use. Maybe I can do better with a little bit more practice, but they are rather small. With bigger ones, it's not that much of a problem, but with the small ones of just 1 inch, it's a bit tricky.
Well, that's easy to do. I've done it a number of times that way. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's not so much a problem with the routing the recess, because there the template stops the router, and everything what's inside the opening you can route away, so that's not that much of a problem. But if you want to use the inner piece here, then you have to be really careful. After routing them out, I used my bandsaw to cut through the wood and kind of free the inserts. And then I did it using the traditional technique that is described on the website of Big Island Engraving as well. I put some sticky tape onto the bowl so that the hot melt glue that is used for fixing the template doesn't stick to the wood, because it's really difficult to get it off. And then I used hot melt glue and some little pieces of wood to level my template or put it into the right position. And then I glued everything together with hot melt glue. With the first I routed out, with the first recess I routed out, I did not put sticky tape on the back of my wooden template, and I had a hell of a lot of work to get the hot melt glue off again. So with the second one, I put sticky tape on the bowl and on the back of the template, and then it was easier to take it apart again. Yeah, and I routed it out. I didn't use a special vise for that to hold the bowl, because the insert was on the top here anyway, so it was easy to leave it on the machine and just block the shaft and then do the routing. And after routing the recess, I cleaned the corners with a chisel and glued in the butterfly inserts and filled the gaps a little bit, sanded it. Okay, maybe first I sanded the bowl. That was before even starting with the routing, because the sticky tape that I put under the hot melt glue needs to, or the masking tape needs to stick to the bowl, and then it's good to have it sanded first. If it's too rough, the masking tape won't won't stick. So, and then I used a sharp knife for cleaning off the excess glue and any stray fibers that were in the split. And that's the bowl.
Did you still have it on the lathe so you could smooth off the outside surface after gluing them in?
Yeah, I had.
How thick is the bowl, Kai?
It's about 3/8 of an inch, about 10 millimeters. 3/8, yeah.
Okay. You know what I would like to try, and I haven't done it yet, but I want to pierce. If you turn a bowl thin enough, I wonder if the collet, I can extend it and actually go all the way through and put the butterfly on the inside. You know, you can double stack your butterflies, you know, that might, I'm thinking of trying that.
I think it would be a good idea to if you're going to do that, Bill, is to make the butterfly super big and do it before you finish turning it. So you get a good grip on shape on it, and then turn it rather than doing it at the end of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's anybody who does this without all the routing. I don't want to do all the routing. I'm thinking I could do this with hand tools and a little bit of care.
You could.
I suspect that's it. I suspect that's the way they were done when Captain Cook visited Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
John, you could probably do them. I couldn't.
I think you can do it, but the smaller the butterflies get, the more difficult it is to get a flat bottom in the recess that you have to make. So with bigger ones, it's easier. You can even use maybe a little router plane or something like that to clean off the bottom of the recess. But with small inserts, and Big Island engraving in Hawaii, they make even smaller inserts like as these. They are not an inch, but smaller. I think.
I used 0.9, 9/10 of an inch, and there is one smaller than that. But yeah, I like the smaller ones. I mean, but it is difficult, I think.
A question to the group is: you're talking about making that groove flat when you're doing it with a chisel, but how flat does it have the insert area have to be, because it's glued and it's hidden anyway? It's going to be the recess, any recess or surface is going to be filled with glue, and so all you really have to have is enough to have almost a veneer level of the pinwheel to show up, isn't that? I mean, comments?
Yeah, that's right. You don't see the bottom. That's right. But then on the other hand, it's also not that easy to get it really symmetrical if you want to make the recess. So maybe you have to angle the butterfly a little bit towards the inside, and then you kind of push it in, and then you don't see gaps anymore. So I think doing it by hand is a little bit more tricky. I just wanted to show that picture to John. You can see the chuck is still here. So I still have it on the lathe at this state, and I sanded away by hand first, and then I had the machine running and sanded it again to get it really flat or matching the surface.
Well, you know, in the furniture world, George Nakashima is quite famous for using butterflies on just rotted wood and gnarly bits of wood in his tables. And his butterflies are always a little bit tapered so that they wedge in there. And so by the time they're wedged in, they are tight.
Mm-hmm.
How do you have that bowl?
I made them a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick in some of the ones I did on some 2-inch or 1.5 inch tabletops.
How are you holding the bowl to the lathe there, Kai?
I've got a tenon on the inside of the bowl.
Okay. This is what you showed us a week or two ago, several weeks back.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yep.
That's it.
And then you have to turn the inside again to get rid of that tenon, yeah?
Yes. And then I have to, I put it onto my vacuum chuck and turn the tenon at the bottom of the bowl away.
Okay.
A vacuum chuck, yeah.
Kai, have you considered making the butterfly cut and then filling it with like black epoxy, filling the crack in that instead of putting a wood butterfly in?
I haven't tried that yet. This is my first piece that I ever did, and I haven't tried any other techniques yet. I saw some butterflies as well, where the butterfly was put in and they left a gap intentionally between the butterfly and the workpiece, and then filled that with epoxy. So you have maybe black epoxy as a contrast. So you could do that as well, of course.
Well, you don't need to default to black. It can be red, it can be blue.
Yeah.
Another way that I've repaired a crack like that, I had a bowl, it had a crack in it. It was not opened up like you had the big gap in that one. But I used a biscuit joiner and cut 2 slots and then put biscuits across the joint, across the crack. And I've seen that work some different places.
I've seen some with steel butterflies in.
Lab Stitcher has brass ones.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah. So there are a lot of variations you can do.
Yeah.
Since you're going down the road of non-wood butterflies, you could also just cut the butterfly tie out of the block of wood, the outside portion, and put masking tape on the inside of the bowl and just pour a solid epoxy butterfly of whatever color you want. You don't have to have any wood in the butterfly.
Yeah.
Instead of just putting a butterfly, instead of just putting an epoxy surround, the entire bow tie would be epoxy.
Yeah. Well, the idea is that the shape of the bow tie prevents the crack from opening anymore, like John was saying in the beginning.
Yeah, that's the advantage of that.
So does the epoxy.
Yes, anything you do. Yeah, the other choice is just round into the crack and let it be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, there are those that would take a cracked bowl and burn it. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
exactly
that's
what I
always the
thought when
question
I had
whether
this piece
whether
I
it's
had that I
nice.
put the biscuits in. I thought normally what I would do would be to fill that with sawdust and wood glue or hot or super glue. And I thought I'm just going to leave the crack, but just leaving it open, that looks like, well, it cracked after I gave it away or sold it or whatever. So I put the biscuits in there so that, yeah, I know the crack is there and I'm trying to repair it. And that's the way I did it.
Ron, did you do the biscuits in line with the crack or at 90 degrees to the crack?
Well, no, across the crack. You can do it
Across the crack. Okay.
Were you using biscuits or dominoes?
I'm sorry, what?
Were you using the real biscuits, the thin biscuits, or were you using Festool's dominoes?
No, biscuits are stamped and they have that profile shape on them. They wouldn't work in there. I cut some Purple Heart is what I used.
Okay.
The width of a saw blade and put that in.
Yeah. I mean, it's right. It's a lot of work to do these butterflies and put the inserts into the bowl, but it's an interesting thing. And after Bill showed it at the morning coffee hour, I thought, well, it's something to try out. And I like the idea, and I ordered the stuff from MLCS. And that, I think the system is quite good because by using one bushing with a sleeve, it doesn't matter whether your template is totally symmetrical or not. If there is a variation in the template, it will be in the inlay and in the recess after routing. So you don't have a problem there and get a nice fit anyway. And so it's an interesting system, and I like playing around with it. Of course, if you want to sell the bowl, I think it's not worth doing it. In Germany, everyone will say, well, it's a broken bowl, and I shall pay more money for it than for a nice one or for one that hasn't got a split. Why should I? Yeah. But if you do it for yourself or for a friend, it's nice.
When we made calabash bowls, I think at the challenge for the Susquehanna Club, I made one. It didn't have a split in it, but I wanted a Pewa anyway, so I drew it on the wood.
I think Kai, maybe when you're talking about bowls with cracks and repairs and stuff like that, some of my artist friends would say that you're using negative space better and doing other things. So they actually look at it as an enhancement as opposed to a detraction when there are some of those things, because you've paid attention to it. And that's the thing. If you're just taking something, cracking and selling it, there's a difference between that and actually having paid attention to the feature, as I'm going to call it, and enhance it.
Yeah. I think that's what they do in Hawaii. I read that the bowls get more valuable the more of these butterflies they have, because it means if it's an old bowl and has been passed from generation to generation, people cared for the bowl and repaired it again. They didn't throw it away. So it's a valuable heirloom piece. And so that makes the difference. But in Germany, I think you first have to convince people about the negative space and how to use it before they are willing to pass over some money for it.
Well, the furniture maker Gary Bennett for a while was inlaying knots into otherwise pristine pieces of wood. He would cut the tight knots out of something and turn them into inlays. So I thought that was pretty clever too.
I was wondering,
the butterfly is a traditional unit, but you can use any kind of a pattern that you would like. You can anything that would work.
Exactly.
and now that we're talking about it, why not stitch it?
You can.
Yeah.
I love stitching. It's not as much work, and you can get copper and all whatever into it, even shoestrings. You know, it's just kind of fun.
I stitched one with leather one time.
Well, that's what Belcher lectured us on that when we had him in. And one of the points he made is before you start stitching, and I fell into this trap, you got to figure out how you're going to end the stitching. Otherwise, you are going to end it with a mess, a knot exactly where you don't want it.
Yeah.
So that's part of the, that's an interesting issue with stitching. You have to think it through as much as anything else. You think you can just start sewing, but it's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to practice that, John. And I've done leather stitching and ended up tucking the loose ends underneath inside the bowl. And people really like them. I mean, they are interested, you know, leather stitching from Tandy Company. I think I've used wire.
Copper
Bill
wire.
Hackett, in our original club president, he recommended to try staples. So I have a collection of staples. I haven't tried that, you know, the heavy box staples, but yeah, I think it's a feature, but like Kai said, there's two types of thought on that, you know.
Well, I stitched a platter one time, had a crack in it. I stitched it with a small diameter round leather. Then I made a football, full-size regulation football, and I put white shoelaces in that, and I stitched that in. And just like John said, finding a way to tuck the end in at the end was a little bit tricky, but
yes,
got it where there were no ends.
Yeah,
be done.
We once went on a holiday to Britain, and they have these old castles there they call halls, and we went to one of that was built in the 16th century, and they had a wooden bowl there on display in the kitchen, and it had kind of strips of copper sheet metal, or thin copper strips nailed over the crack in the bowl. So that must have been a repair that they did maybe 100 years ago or 200 years ago. Yeah, there are all different ways of repairing these bowls.
I actually, when I first started segmenting a number of years ago, took and put a thin piece of copper, O-temper copper between each of the segments, so that I have copper and walnut segmented bowl where all the joints are copper. So again, there's lots of things you can do.
Okay, so thanks a lot for listening.
Thanks.
I think
Thanks,
I used up a lot of your time today, so maybe I talk about our meeting next time. Is that okay?
Yeah, next time. That was a very good discussion, though. Thanks everybody for kicking in on that. Let's see. Would you guys, since we're all talking, would you just like to go around and talk about what you're making right now, or would you like to see a couple of 5-minute videos?
Take care.
I can contribute a short piece.
Let's go around some more. Doug, you want to take it and see what people are making?
Sure. Did I hear you say something, Randy?
Yes.
You got something? What are you doing these days?
I just finished making 20 pens for the Turn for the Troops, and I'm wearing my IAP t-shirt. I think it's probably backward. I don't know how that happens, but anyway, I just finished 20 pens that I made for the Turn for the Troops, and I have to take those over to Woodcraft. Other than that, can I share my screen?
You can.
A lot of times.
You didn't make quite.
Did I make that?
No.
Not yet.
I'm going to take the spotlight off you and try it again.
That worked here. I see you, Bill.
There he goes.
There you go.
Okay. A lot of times, and I use a skew a lot in making pens. And a lot of people think this is the devil's can opener, and I've heard it referred to that way. But the situation arises is that in most cases, it's the way you sharpen or grind the bevels on it that cause it to be really hard to use. Now, if you go into any store, the Woodcraft or any place where they sell wood turning tools, and look at the tools, at the SKUs that are on display, you will find that this is the grind that you'll find on those tools. But if you grind a tool, if you grind a skew on a round grinder wheel, what you get is this as the grind. And the situation occurs that you can't ride the bevel really well on this one. Because if you're riding the bevel, the only place you can ride the bevel is right in here. And that makes the skew very difficult to control. Whereas if you do this one, that makes it much easier because you can ride the bevel anywhere in here. And of course, this is the least sharp, but it's the easiest to control because turning the skew can actually turn it on and off, just like flipping a switch. And so the grind that you put on your skews will really affect the ease of use of that skew.
Randy, what's your skewness angle? And are you talking about a straight edge skew or a curved edge skew? Let's get the whole picture out here.
I've used both. My skews at the moment are mostly straight edged, about 30-degree included angle, 15 degrees on each side.
And what's the most useful width for pens and little stuff?
For pens, I have some 1-inch, I have some 3/4-inch skews that I got, believe it or not, from Penn State Industries. Their woodworking tools don't get near the respect that they deserve. They're actually very good steel and very high quality. But I've tried the curved edge skews and they work pretty well.
Everybody else froze, or is it just me?
No, I don't know. Let me see. I'm going to go back to gallery view. Randy, you're going to share any more? Okay.
Nope.
Can I just ask a question, Randy? You said about the flat grinding. Do you have a special grinding wheel for using that flat? I have a CBN wheel with a flat side on it for generating that flat grind on the skew. So I use, but it's not really recommended to do that on a vitreous wheel, vitrified wheel.
I do that now, but before I got the CBN wheel, and it does have a flat edge around the rim, around the perimeter. But
Yeah.
before I had that, I actually used a disc sander with a Wolverine jig.
Okay. Very good.
And that worked very well.
Thanks.
Okay.
So, does anybody want to volunteer, or do I pick somebody out of the hat?
Hey, Doug, I want to show a piece
Jim.
like you and I would remember this because we cut the wood, the silver maple at the Buchanan estate.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my screen. Do you see it?
Yeah,
we do.
That's a
Yes.
stitch. You know, I got to thinking when you guys were talking how I ended it. Well, on the inside at the bottom, I just CA glued the two ends together in flat inside. But this is a piece that I selected from that tree you guys knew about. And Doug and I went over and harvested a bunch of silver maple. And in the process of turning, it got a little thin, no problem. But it also heated up and cracked for me, so I just stitched it. It's one of those, I'm sure a lot of you guys have done that, but this one I'm particularly pleased with.
What are you stitching with?
Actually, that's a good question. It was construction shoelaces.
I thought it looked like a shoelace, yes.
Yeah, it's one of those really corrugated laces that you put on boots you go out and work with. I have done with leather or copper, but this was just kind of fun. But everybody says, what'd you do it with? So you.
Yeah, it looks very nice.
Yeah, cool.
Can I share is something I've been doing.
Sure.
Share screen. Start broadcast. Take me a minute here. Now I'm going to go into my photographs. And this one here. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
That's cool.
I was rifling through one of my drawers and found a bunch of beads that I got at a bead shop at Lebanon here, and was trying to figure out what to do with them. Well, I've been storing them for doing some sort of wood turning project, and so I made this little Christmas ornament. Bought it's gold plated aluminum or whatever, or brass plated aluminum wire, so it's really dead soft wire, and put one drill and my vise to twist the wire around the amethyst. So there's 8 pieces of amethyst on a, and then it's just super glued in on a piece of maple.
And
Ty,
how tall is it?
It's about 6 inches tall.
Yeah.
So just something outside the box a bit more. And this is, again, the combination. I like the idea of the combination of stone and metal and wood all together. All right, now we'll do, now I have to get out to, I have to figure out how to end my share here.
Okay, you're back.
Screen. Okay, thank you.
Well, in that note, since you've shown that, I'm going to show.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to show a piece I made in that same sequence. The Lancaster guy saw this last night, but the rest of you didn't. Just a sec, I got to share the screen correctly here. This is a levitating spindle. Can you see it?
And that's great. I love that one, John.
Great, John.
I've thought of a couple more variations on this theme that I'm going to make. A thing I wanted to say about this, and I didn't bring it up though, and we were talking before we started about drawing. The vertical spindles here that are the yoke holding this thing up. These, I draw those out pretty carefully before I make them. But all I do on the wood is mark the deep points where the deep cuts are, and then turn in between them. But before I turn something like this, I know where each one is going to be, and I know what this is going to look like. And it's easy to do. You don't have to be an artist to do it. You just need a big piece of paper.
Yep.
So tell us how you got that magnetic suspension thing to work.
Well, how that works is in each of the finials, there's a magnet, and they would attract. So if they were free to be on their own, they would slam together and hold tight. There's also a magnet inside the red orb. So it can, when it's in there, the top finial supports it, and then the bottom finial is tightly clinging to it. But actually, from the bottom of the bottom finial, there's a monofilament line that goes down here to an upholstery needle that's set down deep in the wood, and it just makes an eye that I can pass the monofilament through, and it goes over here to a violin-style tuning peg. Because violinists and guitar players with a tuning peg, they can make very, very tiny adjustments in the length of their string, and that's what you need here, because this is at the limit. If this is 1 millimeter further apart, it will fall. The magnetic attraction from the cylindrical magnets, which are 1/4 by 3/8, I think, has to be enough to hold up the weight of the spindle plus the weight of the magnet. So anyway, that's what's going on here. This is 13 inches tall overall.
That's brilliant, John.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's not that is not ebony. That it's all the spindles are pearwood, and this is colored with a black Sharpie.
I remember you saying that last night. I got a bottle of Black India ink, and I use it to ebonize things, and it really does a beautiful job.
That works great. Yeah, and this is then buff, be all buff, just straight wax on top of it.
Yeah.
John, those magnets, what's the size on them again?
They're 1/4 by 3/8.
1/4 diameter?
Yes.
3/8 long. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I made another one with a big disc magnet that was a 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch, and I thought it was a stronger magnet, but it needed a bigger, more weight of wood to surround it, so it didn't work nearly as well.
Yeah.
And then the question is, what shape of magnet best projects its field the farthest out? Is a cylinder that is like the donut, wider than it is thick, going to make more of a field around it, or is a long, thin cylinder going to make more of a field? It turns out the long, thin cylinder is the way to go. I did a bunch of experiments to figure that out.
Those are those rare earth magnets?
Yes, from K&J.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
John,
They're about 50 cents each or 40 cents each.
John, next thing we know, since you're turning pear, you'll be turning a recorder. Anybody turned any instruments like that? Pear wood is a common one for recorder instruments.
I would think pearwood was used in a lot of older treen too, along with sycamore, because it turns so cleanly and is so stable once it's dried.
John, that's quite a conversation piece. I keep that on my desk, I think.
That's where it is right now. It's right beside me. But if I pick it up to hold it up beside my ear, let's see, let's get it in the right plane. Oh, you know what I have to do is turn off that stupid background. So I'll do that first. Choose virtual background, none. There it is.
Yes. Okay.
But down it goes.
Oh.
Now pass your finger through it like you said you could.
Oh yeah. Oops, that's.
Oh yeah.
I'm holding it in the air is the problem here. Okay, now.
Yeah.
Because from the magnet's point of view, air and wood and finger are all the same. There are some materials that will shield a magnet, but wood is not one of them, and neither is finger.
You know
Since we're returning to what we had last night, to wrap this up, Tatkowski, have you got a picture handy of your COVID? All right.
I got it, John, if you want.
You got it?
You got it?
Go, Doug?
Yeah.
We'll close the hour out with that for those of you who hadn't seen it. This is worth looking at again as well. I think
it's brilliant, and I'll make you famous on the infectious disease circles.
Well, you might get a good price for it in the infectious disease circles too.
I got requests to make more of them, but I said it's
pretty hard to make.
It's so tedious. Yeah. That's an 1.75 inch sphere, and I hollowed it out. Now, when I've done ornaments before, I never turned them as a sphere. So I went on YouTube and saw how one fella made like a bocce ball, but I needed the hollow, so I had to modify that a little bit. But it's round, and there's about 60 holes drilled in there, and those triangles, isosceles triangles, excuse me, and you'll see 2 orange things there. They're proteins. The yellow are proteins. I got it off the CDC website. How to look at it, but it was kind of cool to make.
That's great. What a great idea.
Very clever.
So this is a medically accurate rendition?
Yeah.
I don't want it. Stay away from me.
Yeah, I know. I've had some people say, "Oh, I want one. I want one." I said, "Yeah, I'll do the turning," but I said, "You guys got to cut the triangles. You got to cut the bamboo skewers, But that part, that was tedious to say, but it was fun though. I mean, it was I drew it up like I normally do. I drew up the size so that I could see because I think they wanted over a 3-inch icicle on the bottom. So it's about 3 3/8 icicle on the bottom.
That's a nice finial too. It looks like you actually designed that finial as opposed to just making bumps with your gouge.
Yeah. I with Keith, Dr. Keith Lauterbaugh, his examples, he did some demos for Susquehanna, and they're absolutely wonderful. And I refer to them whenever I'm doing finials, and I do like you, John, make a sketch and put them up behind, you know, my lathe, you know, so I can duplicate them within reason, you know, not manufactured tolerances, but.
Well, let me say about Dr. Keith Louderback. We have a 25-minute video of Keith in his shop that includes a segment on his holiday ornaments and where he shows them and talks about them, and that's available on the Lancaster area Woodturners website, even though it hasn't been shown here. I will say that I think the videos are getting better. We're learning how to do them with a camera, with a phone cam. Learning how not to wave the camera around and cut all that stuff out. We're using a little microphone now, so each one of these videos improves a little bit. There's also a new video out there of Martin Stolpe pushing his current wood giveaway. So if that interests you, you can check that out. It includes Martin's phone number. And on that note, since it's 11 o'clock, I'm going to say the coffee hour is formally over, but of course the screen can stay open and you can yakety yak as long as you want to.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, John. I'll catch y'all later.
John.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Yep. So long.
Love seeing your project.
Thanks.
Great project. Thanks.
Got a question. Has anybody ever did a nutcracker?
You're muted, John.
I've never done it. Yeah, I was thinking about doing it, but I never did it. I'm more likely to do a chess set before I take on a nutcracker.
Okay, I have a little one that I'm practicing. I took a little one and made a bigger part here. I got some more work to do. The big thing is putting this groove in it, and then on the back side, I have to have a groove the whole way down. But then I had to come up with the part for the middle, so that when it went together, it would be flush. So I have the head separate, and then I got to put the feet in. But here's a little one I was copying off of. And as you can see,
I think my strategy would be to assemble the groove into the block before turning it.
Okay.
Glue up the block from several pieces of wood in order to have the slot, the open space that you need, rather than cutting it in afterward.
Okay, because I had to brace it, and you have to saw and chisel, and so it's slowly coming.